The average American will spend $400,000 on their car over their lifetime. $400,000. And then turn around and say they can't afford to retire. Here's what nobody ever told you. There is one single number, not a million, not six figures, not some trust fund fantasy. One specific number that changes everything about your financial life. And it's smaller than you think. But here's the part that messes with your head. Getting to that number doesn't just change your bank account. It physically rewires how your brain makes decisions. Scientists have a name for the mental state you're in right now if you're living paycheck to paycheck. And once you hear what it actually does to you, you're going to be furious that nobody explained this sooner. And here's the third thing. There is a hidden tax, a literal, quantifiable cost that people without savings pay every single year without realizing it. It's not in any tax code. Nobody sends you a bill, but it's draining hundreds of dollars out of your wallet every month. We're going to break down exactly what that number is. By the end of this video, you're going to have a specific action plan, not vague motivation, an actual numbered plan that you can start executing today. Let's start with the number. It's $20,000. That's it. Not a million, not six figures. $20,000 is the first major financial threshold that separates people who will build real wealth from people who will spend their entire lives scrambling. I know what you're thinking. That's still a lot of money when I'm barely making rent. I hear you. But I'm not going to tell you to just work harder or cut your lattes. I'm going to show you why this specific number is the lever that changes the entire game. And then I'm going to show you the exact steps to get there. The reason $20,000 is the magic line isn't just about having more money in the bank. It's about crossing a psychological threshold that most people never cross. And that's exactly why most people never actually build wealth. But before we get to the psychology, let's talk about something you've probably never heard called the poverty premium. Here's something that genuinely made me angry when I first learned it. Being poor is expensive, not in a vague philosophical way, in a very specific dollar-for-dollar measurable way. People without savings pay what economists call the poverty premium, a tax you pay just for being broke. Let me show you what this actually looks like. If you don't have $500 in savings when your car breaks down, you're not paying $500 to fix it. You're putting it on a credit card at 24% interest. Or you're taking out a payday loan at an effective rate that can hit 400% APR. Or you miss work because you have no transportation, which costs you income. That one $500 breakdown can end up costing you $800, $900, $1,000 because you didn't have the buffer. Insurance rates are higher when you have lower credit scores, which correlate directly with not having savings. You can't buy in bulk because you don't have the cash float. You rent instead of own because you can't scrape together a down payment. And over 30 years, the wealth gap between renters and homeowners is enormous. Every single one of these things is a penalty, a hidden fee for being broke. Research from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau estimates the average American in financial distress pays an extra $1,000 to $2,000 per year in these poverty premiums. That's $100 to $170 per month, straight out of your wallet, just for not having a buffer. That's the first reason $20,000 changes everything. It eliminates this penalty. You stop paying the broke tax. Okay, now let's talk about what's happening in your brain. And I need you to take this seriously because this is not motivational speaker stuff. This is actual neuroscience. When you don't have savings, when every paycheck is already spoken for before it hits your account, your brain enters what psychologists call survival mode. Your brain's threat detection system stays permanently activated. You are always, on some level, managing risk. And what that does is it consumes your cognitive bandwidth, your mental processing power. There is a landmark study by researchers at Harvard and Princeton, published in Science magazine, that found that financial scarcity reduces cognitive capacity by the equivalent of 13 IQ points. 13. That's the same cognitive impact as going an entire night without sleep, every single day. You're not bad with money. You're operating with one hand tied behind your back because your brain is spending all its resources on survival instead of strategy. The researchers called it the bandwidth tax. And here's the brutal part. This creates a self-reinforcing loop. You're stressed about money, so your decision-making degrades, so you make worse financial choices, so you get more stressed about money. The poverty trap isn't just financial. It's neurological. But here's the thing that made me hopeful when I learned this. It can be broken. Research from Vanguard shows that having just $2,000 in emergency savings increases measured financial well-being by 21%. $2,000, not $20,000, 2,000. Just having something shifts the brain out of pure survival mode enough to start thinking differently. Push it to 3 to 6 months of expenses, which for most Americans lands around $20,000, and you get another 13% boost. More importantly, you've crossed the line from reactive to proactive, from surviving to building. Now let's talk about the math, because this is where the $20,000 threshold gets visceral. Let's say you're saving $1,000 per month, and you're earning 8% annual returns on your investments, which is a reasonable long-term average for a diversified index fund portfolio. Getting to your first $20,000 takes 19 months. A year and a half of discipline, of saying no, of grinding. That's hard. I'm not pretending it isn't. But here's what happens next. Your second $20,000 doesn't take 19 months. It takes 17. Why? Because your first $20,000 is now sitting in the market, generating its own returns alongside your new contributions. You did the exact same work, same $1,000 per month, same effort, same sacrifice, and you shaved 2 full months off the timeline just because you had more money working for you. Your third $20,000 accelerates again, your fourth. And here's where the math becomes almost unfair. Once you hit $400,000 in your investment portfolio, your investments alone can generate a new $20,000 every 5 months. That's $20,000 appearing in your account every 5 months while you sleep. The same amount that took you 19 months of grinding at the beginning. This is the actual secret of wealth building. Not some exclusive hedge fund, not timing the market, not getting lucky. It's just compound interest applied to enough capital that the math starts doing the heavy lifting instead of you. The first $20,000 is the hardest. It's also the most important because it starts the engine. Here's something that messes with people's heads when they first start investing. They put $500 into an index fund, it grows 10%, and they make $50. And they think, this is pointless. $50, but they're not seeing the math correctly. That same 10% return on $20,000 is $2,000. Same investment, same time period, same level of risk, same index fund, just more capital behind it. 10% on $100,000 is $10,000. 10% on $400,000 is $40,000. The strategy never changes. The effort never changes. Only the scale changes. And scale is what $20,000 buys you. When you have $20,000 sitting in an 8% annual return portfolio, that's $1,600 flowing into your account over the course of a year without you lifting a finger. Money you didn't earn through your job. Money that showed up because your money was working on your behalf. That's not rich people magic. That's just math. And you can access the exact same math with a free Fidelity account and a total market index fund. Okay, now here's the part where I'm going to say something that goes completely against what most financial content tells you. And I need you to stay with me because this is probably the most important idea in this entire video. Ready? The $20,000 itself almost doesn't matter. The amount in the account is almost secondary. What actually matters, what the $20,000 is really doing, is what it's doing to your leverage in every single area of your life. If nobody's ever shown you a frame like this before, hit subscribe right now. Because what I'm about to show you is the part that actually changes behavior, not just knowledge. Here's the real mechanic. When you hit $20,000 saved, you gain walking away power. The ability to walk away from situations that don't serve you. Your job, your apartment, a bad deal, a toxic relationship, a city you hate. Without savings, every one of those situations holds you prisoner. You stay in the job you hate because you need next week's paycheck. You don't negotiate your rent because you can't afford to move. You don't push back on your boss because you can't afford to lose the income. But when you have $20,000 sitting in an account, you could quit tomorrow and survive for 6 months while you find something better. You probably won't, but you could. And that knowledge, just the fact that you can, changes everything about how you show up. You become more confident at work. You negotiate differently. You take on better projects because you're not afraid of failure. People notice. And the crazy irony is, the people who most need a raise are often the ones whose desperation is actively preventing them from getting one. The $20,000 doesn't just save you. It negotiates for you. Let me make this concrete with a real scenario. Picture 2 people, same job, same salary. Jordan and Alex. Jordan is living paycheck to paycheck. 0 savings. Jordan's boss calls them in and floats a lateral move. Same pay, but different responsibilities. Jordan is scared to push back. What if saying no means getting fired? Jordan takes the move without negotiating. Alex has $20,000 saved. Alex's boss makes the same pitch. Alex says, "I'm interested, but I'd need this to come with a salary adjustment. Alex might get the raise, Alex might not, but Alex asks. And research from Harvard Business School shows that people who negotiate their salaries earn an average of $1 million more over their career than people who don't. $1 million over a career, not from working harder, from having enough security to ask. That's what $20,000 actually buys. It buys you the psychological freedom to advocate for yourself. And the financial returns from that psychological freedom absolutely dwarf the returns from the $20,000 itself sitting in an index fund. Okay. Let's go back to the number I opened with, $400,000, the average American's lifetime car spending. Between car payments, insurance, maintenance, and gas, $600 to $800 per month is completely normal in this country. Over a 40-year working life, that's conservatively $400,000. That's not counting the opportunity cost. $600 per month invested at 8% for 40 years is $1.8 million. $1.8 million. That is the actual price of your car habit. And here's the thing that makes it worse. The moment you drive a new car off the lot, it loses 20% of its value. You are paying interest on something that is actively shrinking in value. The car feels like wealth. The monthly payment feels like you've made it. But it is the single most effective wealth destruction mechanism that middle-class Americans voluntarily sign up for. That $30,000 car isn't $30,000. It's $30,000 that could have been $200,000 in your portfolio in 20 years. A $400 per month car payment isn't $400 per month. It's 4 months added to your timeline to your first $20,000. Every major financial decision is an opportunity cost decision. Once you see it that way, a reliable used car doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It feels like a weapon. Here's something else that flips when you hit $20,000. You stop obsessing over small expenses and start obsessing over big ones. Right now, if you're broke or near broke, you're running mental calculations on every purchase. Is a $4 coffee worth it? Should I get the generic cereal? But here's the brutal math reality. The difference between buying coffee every day and making it at home is roughly $1,000 per year. Real money, yes, but it will not make or break your financial future. What will make or break your financial future are the 3 big decisions: where you live, what you drive, and how much you save. Your housing cost difference between a reasonable place and a slightly nicer place might be $400 per month. That's $4,800 per year. That's $150,000 over 30 years if invested at 8%. The coffee decision is worth $1,000 per year. The housing decision is worth 150 times more. Once you have a solid foundation, you stop sweating the small stuff because you realize the small stuff was never the issue. You start making deliberate macro decisions. This genuinely changes your quality of life because you stop living under constant micro guilt. Now I need to give you a specific warning. I see people make this exact mistake constantly. They hit $20,000. They feel the psychological shift. They feel the confidence, and then they spend it. Maybe they decide they deserve a new car because they've been so disciplined. Maybe they take an expensive vacation because they've earned it. Do not do this. The $20,000 is not a reward for good behavior. It is not the finish line. It is the starting gun. The moment you spend it, you lose every single thing I just described. The walking away power, the compound acceleration, the psychological freedom, the negotiating leverage. All of it gone. You're back in survival mode. The $20,000 is a seed. Seeds don't buy you nice dinners. They grow into trees. Let it grow. All right, here is your exact action plan. 5 specific steps with specific numbers and specific timelines. Step 1, calculate your actual poverty premium. Sit down tonight and calculate what being broke is actually costing you. Add up your credit card interest payments for last year. Add overdraft fees, add payday loan fees, add any insurance premiums inflated by your credit score, add fees for not meeting minimum account balances. Most people find it's between $1,200 and $3,000 per year. Write that number down. That is the direct financial return on your first $20,000 saved. You eliminate that penalty forever. Step 2, open a separate high-yield savings account today. Not tomorrow, today. Go to Marcus by Goldman Sachs, Ally, or SoFi. All free, all online, all paying 4 to 5% APY right now, and open an account. Transfer whatever you can in the next 24 hours, even if it's $20. The account being open and active is what matters first. When it's mixed with your checking account, it becomes invisible, and it gets spent. Step 3, automate a fixed transfer on payday. Decide on an amount, even $200 per month if that's all you can manage, and set up an automatic transfer from your checking to your high-yield savings for the day after your paycheck hits. Not a reminder. An automatic transfer that happens whether you think about it or not. Automation removes the daily willpower battle. You can't spend money that isn't there. Start with what you can afford. Increase it by $50 every time you get a raise or cut an expense. Step 4. Find your one expense that generates $200 or more per month. Not the coffee, not the generic cereal. Look at your 3 biggest discretionary expenses and find one that, if eliminated or reduced, would free up $200 per month. Streaming subscriptions you don't use, a gym you don't go to, a car you could refinance, a subscription box you forgot about. One cut, $200 per month. Added to your automated transfer, that's $400 per month going to your goal. At $400 per month, you hit $20,000 in 50 months. At $800 per month, you're there in 25 months. Every dollar you add shortens the timeline. Step 5. Calculate your exact date. Take your current savings balance. Subtract it from $20,000. Divide by your monthly contribution amount. That gives you the number of months. Add that to today's date. Write down the specific month and year you will hit $20,000. Put it in your calendar. Tell one person. The research on goal commitment shows that a specific date with a social component makes you dramatically more likely to follow through. This is not a wish, this is a project. Projects have deadlines. Subscribe right now if this changed the way you see money, because the next video I'm making is going to show you what happens at the number after $20,000. And I promise you, the math gets genuinely insane. Okay, let's close every loop I opened at the start. Loop 1, the number. It's $20,000. That's the threshold. Not a million, not 6 figures. 20,000. That's where the game changes. Loop 2, what it does to your brain. It pulls you out of neurological survival mode. It ends the bandwidth tax. It shifts your cognitive resources from threat management to opportunity building. The Vanguard and Harvard research is real. This is not motivation. This is biology. Loop 3, the hidden tax, the poverty premium, the $1,000 to $2,000 per year you're paying just for not having a buffer. When you hit $20,000, that tax disappears permanently. Now here's what I want you to think about until the next video. Everything I showed you today, the compound acceleration, the walking away power, the negotiation leverage, all of it was about the first threshold. What happens at the second threshold? What changes when you hit $100,000? Because I will tell you right now, the rules change again at $100,000 in ways that make the $20,000 shift look small. And the people who know about the $100,000 threshold are the ones quietly becoming wealthy right now, while everyone else argues about whether they can afford a house. That's the next video. I'm Max. This is the money stuff they never taught you.